At the beginning of time, there was nothing but darkness and water. A great god named Mbombo floated alone in this watery void. He had no one to talk to. He had no one to eat with. And so he began to get a terrible stomachache. In the story of the Kuba people from Central Africa, Mbombo's belly ached for so long that he decided the only cure could be to bring something new into existence. With a tremendous effort, he pushed a huge bulge out of his stomach. It was hard work, and his body trembled as he expelled this great mass. No? But once outside of his body, the thing he had pushed began to grow rapidly. At first it was just a small ball, but in a moment it had become a large rock. And as Mbombo watched in amazement, the rock continued to grow, until it became an island rising high above him. Then just as suddenly, it stopped growing. Mbombo wanted to see what he had created. So he dove down into the depths of the water and pushed himself upward onto the peak of the island. As he stood there, he noticed something even more amazing. The top of the island was smooth and flat like a mirror. And when he looked down, he saw not only himself reflected back at him, but the entire world around him. For the first time, Mbombo wasn't alone. Now he had the whole world to be with, and that made him very happy. He took a big deep breath and let out a sigh. He was about to continue exploring his creation when Mbombo heard a knock. Someone or something was walking across the island. Startled, Mbombo hid behind a boulder. He peered out and saw two little girls skipping towards him, were giggling and playing, and they didn't seem to notice him at all. One of the girls stopped to pick up a leaf and examine it closely. The other girl picked up a stone and skipped it across the surface of the water. And both of them continued to play until they disappeared into the forest. Mbombo waited a while, but he couldn't help feeling a bit lonely again, so he left his hiding place to explore the rest of the island. He walked through the trees until he came across a large watering hole filled with fresh water. It was just the kind of thing he needed to quench his thirst. And as he drank, he noticed some fish swimming nearby. They were beautiful, with scales that shimmered like jewels in the light. He reached down into the water and pulled one out, then quickly spit it back into the water. Mbombo didn't want to eat, and that would make him have another stomachache, and he wanted to keep his creation as perfect as possible. As he turned to leave, he saw an enormous herd of elephants lumbering toward the watering hole. They were splashing in the shallows, spraying water everywhere. Mbombo watched them for a while until the elephants disappeared into the trees. He wandered back to the center of the island, where he had first emerged. He looked around at everything he had created and decided it was good. He could stay here forever and take care of the world. But then he felt another twinge in his stomach. It was that awful feeling again. He knew that if he didn't do something, the pain would get worse. And so he tried to think of something new to bring into existence. But he couldn't think of anything. And the longer he pondered, the worse his stomachache became. Finally, he could stand it no longer. He bent over and emptied the contents of his stomach onto the ground. This time, instead of a rock, Mbombo vomited forth the sun, moon, and stars. They flew through the air, each racing to find their place in the sky. The sun blazed a path across the heavens, chasing away the darkness. The moon followed closely behind, casting silvery light onto the earth. And the stars twinkled in the night sky, lighting the way for those who traveled in the dark. Mbombo watched them go, and he felt much better. He relaxed and leaned against a tree when suddenly he heard a splash. He turned toward the sound and saw some monkeys swimming in the ocean. He watched them swim and play until he felt that familiar stomachache return. Again, he tried to think of something else to create, but his mind was blank. So he did the only thing he could. He bent over and emptied his stomach again. And from his body came forth everything that lived in the sea. Birds with bright feathers and sharp beaks, fish that swam in schools, turtles with shells like shields, and whales that breached the surface of the water. There were so many creatures to explore that Mbombo knew he could never keep track of them all. He felt a sense of pride as he watched them swim and fly and slither through the water. Then he felt the stomachache come for a third time, but this time it was different. This time it was stronger. Mbombo knew that if he didn't do something, the pain would never go away. He thought about everything he had already created, the rocks and the trees, the fish and the birds, the elephants and the monkeys. He knew that if he brought forth any more animals, the earth wouldn't have enough food for all of them. Suddenly, Mbombo remembered the two girls he had seen earlier. He hoped they could help him, but how could he get them to come back? He needed to do something extraordinary. So he closed his eyes, gathered all of his strength, and pushed one last time. But instead of vomiting, Mbombo felt something leave his body. It started off small, like a tiny seed, but quickly grew larger. In moments, it was a man. The man looked around in wonder. He had never seen the world before. Mbombo approached him and said, "Take care of my world while I go play with my new friend." Then the man looked up at Mbombo and asked, "Who are you?" Mbombo replied, "I am your father. My name is Mbombo. The two little girls you saw earlier are your sisters. Take care of them and all the other creatures. Don't let anything bad happen to them, and don't ever forget that I am watching." Then Mbombo took the man's hand and led him through the sky until they were far away from the world. Finally, Mbombo released his hold on the man and disappeared into the heavens. The man looked down and saw the world spread out beneath him. He could see his sisters playing in the forest, could see the elephants bathing in the river, could see the sun climbing higher into the sky. He could see everything. And Mbombo kept his promise. He did watch over the earth and the people, sent rain to water the crops. He sent sunshine to warm their skin, sent wind to cool them on hot days. And at night, he sent the moon to light their way. He also sent his son, Lokoyima, or Loyima, to be the ruler of the earth. Lokoyima was perfect for the job. He was strong and brave and wise. And he used all of his powers to protect the world and everyone in it. But sometimes, just sometimes, the humans would get a little too comfortable. Sometimes they would forget that Mbombo was watching. Sometimes they would hurt each other. Sometimes they would destroy the forests and the rivers. And every time that happened, Mbombo felt the pain in his stomach return. It wasn't a physical pain, but an emotional one. He loved his world, and his heart broke every time someone caused pain or destruction. So Mbombo would watch the humans from afar, waiting for them to learn. He watched them build cities and empires. He watched them invent tools and weapons. He watched them fight wars and commit atrocities. He watched them do both good and evil things. He waited patiently for them to become better. And that's why, to this day, whenever the Kuba people hear thunder or see lightning, they know that Mbombo is watching, waiting for them to remember that even though he lives in the sky, he's still a part of the world. And whenever they see the sun rise or set, they know that he's thinking of them.